The marble floors of Sterling Tech's headquarters had never felt colder. Victoria Chan stood alone in her corner office, on the 47th floor, watching the city. Lights blur through tears she refused to let fall outside her glass. Wall's 300 employees worked, frantically unaware that in 72 hours half of them would lose their jobs. The company her father built from nothing, the empire she'd spent 15 years perfecting, was crumbling. And for the first time in her life, the brilliant Harvard-educated CEO had no answers. The intervention had started at dawn. Her executive teams, Evan of the country's top business, minds each commanding seven-figure salaries, had presented their solution with the cold efficiency of surgeons cut the workforce, liquidate assets, file Chapter 11. 3 sentences that would destroy hundreds of lives delivered over French press, coffee and Danish pastries. Victoria had built her reputation on data, on logic, on making the hard decisions that kept shareholders happy and quarterly reports pristine. She had learned from her father that emotion was the enemy of good business. Yet as she stared at the termination packets her HR director had prepared, something inside her rebelled. "Miss Chen," her assistant's voice crackled through the intercom, "your 6 p.m. is here." She'd forgotten. Marcus Webb, her chief strategy officer, wanted one final push, one last chance to convince her that ruthless pragmatism was the only path forward. Victoria straightened her Armani blazer, wiped her eyes, and prepared to sign away her soul. But the man who walked through her door wasn't Marcus. "Sorry to bother you, Ms. Chen." Thomas Rodriguez stood in the doorway, his gray janitor's uniform crisp despite the late hour, his cleaning cart parked respectfully in the hall. "Your assistant said I could empty your trash before I finish the executive floor, but I can come back if you're busy." Victoria almost said yes, almost sent him away like she'd sent away everyone else who couldn't solve her impossible problem. But something stopped her. Maybe exhaustion, maybe desperation, maybe the fact that Thomas was the only person in the building who'd smiled at her in 3 days. "Now please, come in." She turned back to the window as he worked, grateful for a presence that didn't demand decisions or explanations. The silence felt comfortable. In a way, the morning strategy session hadn't. There was something peaceful about Thomas's methodical movements, the quiet dignity in how he performed a job most people never noticed. "Beautiful view," Thomas said softly, pausing beside her. "I've cleaned this office for 8 years, and I never get tired of watching the city from up here. Makes you feel like anything's possible." Victoria laughed bitterly. "Does it? Because from where I'm standing, it feels like everything's ending." She couldn't believe she'd said it. Couldn't believe she was confessing weakness to the janitor. But Thomas didn't look surprised or uncomfortable. He just nodded, like he understood something the Harvard MBAs had missed. "I heard some things," he said carefully. "People talk around janitors like we're invisible. I know the company's in trouble. I know everyone's scared." He hesitated. "I know you're trying to decide who stays and who goes." Victoria's throat tightened. "My experts say I have no choice. The numbers don't lie, Thomas. We're hemorrhaging money. Our main product line failed. Our competitors are crushing us. If I don't make cuts now, we lose everything. What do your experts think went wrong?" It was such a simple question, but it made Victoria pause. "They say we missed market trends, made poor acquisitions, expanded too aggressively. And what do you think went wrong?" No one had asked her that. Not once in 3 months of crisis meetings had anyone asked. Victoria Cheno, the CEO, but the woman who'd grown up in this company, who remembered when her father knew every employee by name, what she thought went wrong. "We stopped caring," she whispered. "Somewhere between the IPO and the Fortune 500 list, we forgot why. Dad started this company. He wanted to build technology that helped people. We just wanted to build wealth." Thomas nodded slowly. "My daughter works in your customer service department. Did you know that?" Victoria shook her head. "Maria Rodriguez, 3rd floor. She tells me stories about the calls she gets. People crying because your old software helped them start businesses, put kids through college, achieve dreams. But your new products?" She says customers sound confused, frustrated, like you're selling them something you think they should want instead of listening to what they need. The words hit Victoria like a physical blow. 6 months ago, her product team had presented research showing their customers wanted simpler, more affordable solutions. She had overruled them, pushing instead for expensive premium features that looked impressive in presentations, but served no real purpose. The experts had backed her decision with projections and market analysis. The experts had been wrong. Thomas, Victoria said slowly, her mind suddenly racing. How much do you know about our products? Not much about the technical stuff. But I hear things, I listen, he smiled. When you're invisible, you learn to pay attention. What do you hear? For the next hour, the janitor and the CEO sat in her office, and Thomas told her what her $100 million consulting firm had failed to discover. He told her about his daughter's conversations with customers who loved Sterling Tech's original mission, about security guards who'd worked at competitor companies and heard different strategies, about cafeteria workers whose kids used technology and had opinions about what actually mattered. He told her about the invisible army of ordinary people who saw everything, heard everything, and understood more than anyone gave them credit for. My experts say it's too late to pivot, Victoria said when he finished. They say the only way to survive is to cut costs and pray. Thomas was quiet for a moment. Then he said something that changed everything. Miss Chen, respect your experts. But sometimes experts are so focused on the numbers that they forget the numbers represent people. Your father didn't build this company with experts. He built it by listening to what people needed and caring enough to solve their problems. Maybe the answer isn't cutting people. Maybe it's remembering why those people matter. Victoria looked at the termination packets on her desk. Then she looked at the city below, where millions of ordinary people lived extraordinary lives that her company had once helped improve. And suddenly she knew exactly what to do. The emergency meeting she called at midnight shocked everyone. Her executive team arrived expecting final approval for the layoffs. Instead, Victoria announced a complete strategic reversal. They would cancel the premium product line, refocus on affordable solutions, and restructure around customer feedback. From the front lines, the customer, service reps, the support staff, the people who actually talk to users every day. This is insane, Marcus sputtered. The board will never approve. The board will approve, Victoria cut him off, because I'm going to remind them what this company stands for. And if they won't, I'll buy them out myself. It was the biggest gamble of her career. The experts predicted disaster. The financial press mocked her pivot. Her stock price tanked. But 3 months later, Sterling Tech's new product line, built on actual customer needs, instead of executive assumptions, became their fastest-growing segment ever. 6 months after that, they were profitable again. A year later, they'd hired back everyone they'd considered firing and added 200 more jobs. Victoria never forgot the night a janitor saved her company. She promoted Maria Rodriguez to head of customer insights, created an employee feedback program that valued input from every level, and established the Thomas Rodriguez Fellowship for employees pursuing education. But more than that, she learned that the best advice doesn't always come from the people with the most impressive credentials. Sometimes it comes from the people who've learned to see clearly because nobody's watching, from the ones who understand that behind every number is a human life, and that caring about those lives isn't weakness, it's the strongest business strategy of all. Thomas still cleans the executive floor. But now, when CEOs visit Sterling Tech, Victoria introduces him as the man who taught her that listening to everyone means hearing the truth. And every year on the anniversary of that conversation, she and Thomas stand at her window looking at the city lights, remembering the night when simple wisdom saved what complicated expertise nearly destroyed, because sometimes the most powerful thing a leader can do is stop talking and start listening to the voices they've learned to ignore.